Hello students, we are meeting after a bit long time. So this time we will fly into the poetic world with the first poem uh, to a pair of Sarus cranes by Manmohan Singh. This Manmohan Singh is not the one who was our Prime Minister. He's an IAS officer, a Punjabi poet, and an ornithologist. One who is interested in the study of birds is called an ornithologist. Salim Ali is one of the most revered ornithologists of India. Here, the poet describes the pains of two mating birds being shot, the male being shot of the two birds. The kind of a disheartened and a cruel attitude humans have towards the nature is being focused uh, through this poem. If anyone is I have made some brief points on it. Then we'll first go to the poem and then we will come to the brief points that I have made. The male was shot as he necked to pull the reluctant sun out from the rim of horizon. She flew crying as she was picked up, hands and jaws, and a proud neck was humbled to lie like a dirty linen in a coarse washing bag. She circled the sky in movements of grace over his disgraceful end. The killers went away and she returned to the death scene with grief that inscribed its intensity in dots and pits like the Morse code of bird sorrow transmitted to the air. With her beak, she kissed a few feathers, picked the ones that wind had not taken away, and sat to hatch the blood-stained feathers into a toddling chick. A wave of the seas she had never seen came to her from far away and carried her to him. She went away beyond Hume's words, beyond the legends and fables of human law. Here, uh, when two cranes, a male and female, were flying, it's the nature of the birds to protrude the neck and fly. But the poet imagines the sun who is seen behind the neck. Sun is far away from the birds, but just the way the sun is seen just near the beak, the bird's beak, he imagines that he is going to pluck the sun who is going beyond the horizon. He is the imagination. So she flew crying as she picked up her hands and jaws, and proud neck was humbled like the dirty linen. What happens there? Some sort of what we say a feeling filled situation for us, but for the hunter it's just a bird that he sees and he has to kill it. No other issues. But for us, the bird has to survive, and both the birds, the male and female, have to live in a peaceful life, is what we imagine. So that's what the human nature in cruelty dealing with the animals and birds has been pointed out over here. Just he kills it and takes away, and the female one comes down to search the dead one and sits on the place where the remaining feathers are there, and just try to hatch the bird hatches a chick. CHICK is chick. Even CHICCHO is Chicago. And while reading it in Kannada, we have made very bad killings in printing. At many places it is Chicago is printed. No, it's Chicago. And I saw one board at somewhere near ZP office, that Ombudsman office. No, it's Ombudsman office. No, in Kannada we say like that. No, don't manufacture new words and new pronunciation. Just it's in Kannada. Busy is made. It's busy. Why the cover up is being made for the wrong pronunciation that we make. It's not the way we should treat another language. If what if we call a name whose name is Sanjay, no, we call it Kanjay. We S is pronounced it Kanj. Is it how the person will feel? It is to be pronounced the way it is, not the way we feel. Let it be. So, to tell you the gist or the brief, this introduction, meaning of the poem, I have made some notes. I will tell just that. The poet tells about the cold-blooded nature in which the hunters kill the bird, the male was killed and the female was grieving. If someone knows, in this situation I made because there are many explanations available elsewhere, just to make you aware how the situation of this kind had transformed a killer hunter into a sage, poetic sage of a greatest mankind's imprint, a Valmiki. The Valmiki has, how he has been transformed is also kind of a similar situation that we see in to a pair of Sarus cranes. Because just as a passing remark, I will tell this thing. If someone knows the situation, this is somewhat akin to Ramayana, where the hunter Valmiki was turned into a great poet saint on seeing a pair of birds mating, being shot, one of the birds being shot, and he automatically the curse, Kraunch Pakshi, it is called in Sanskrit, and the curse automatically comes to his mind just by seeing the bird being shot, and the hunter is said to be got burnt himself down, whatever that may be. But the kind of sudden imaginary things that comes to him was said to be the first kind of that hunter, that when the kind of poetic things oozing out of his mind was the first kind of the poetic verses of tranquility that later put him into writing Ramayana. So some sort of a shock treatments, if used in a proper way, in a better way, can transform us and bring the some of the hidden talents out of us. The poem begins with the description of one of the Sarus cranes stretching its neck as if to pluck the sun out of horizon. I said the kind of a neck that is pulled out while flying, it looks, the sun who is behind that, it is going to pluck the sun itself, as per the poetic imagination. Though this is but a natural style of the bird in the bid to fly, the poetic imagination frames the moment into this impossible vision. Things what the time made the crane was shot at. At that time, one of the crane was shot at. The hunter thus breaks the unison of the birds and gives a disgraceful end to their cajoling lifestyle. All of a sudden, everything changes. The male was shot, and the female just sees where he has gone and sees him being falling dead and being picked up by the hunters and comes down. As usual, after hitting, the hunter callously picks up the dead bird and pushes into his washing bag and walks away. Just he pushes into the bag and walks away. The female bird flies down, searches all around for its male companion. She goes crying all around, expressing her sorrow state of mind, depicting this to all those who could understand her feelings. This is very important. In life also, many times it happens. We remain in a certain state of mind, and only our very close friends and relatives will say, they only can understand why the changing mood is there. Whether it's good or bad, they only sense it, and they would ask you what has happened, either good or bad. In similar way, the poet says it's one who could understand her feeling. Otherwise, one bird was shorted and another was moving around. For those who cannot understand, her grief makes her to sit on some scattered bloodstained feathers. Some of the feathers that were scattered while after he being killed, bloodstained feathers. It sits on them as if to hatch a chick. The way it sits on the eggs to hatch them, it sits as if, because it just feels the nearness of the feathers as if that male bird is there with her. It feels so. It's the feeling that the poet understands from the way that female birds is enjoying the nearness, at least with the feathers of the dead male companion. Thus, the bird goes in a step ahead of the Hume's words. Here, Hume's word is because he's an ornithologist and he had described how the birds express their grief when one of their companions dies. So, the poet says this bird has surpassed what the Hume has said. And another place, the expression goes from Morse code. It is said it is a Morse code is in these days of mobile messages and everything, we have forgotten it. In those days, Morse code was used for transmitting messages in telegraph. Did da 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 da, like that. Messages were being transmitted. Earth as one medium and the current power supply. Then tuck 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 tuck. Then A, C, F, like many, the words were read at the other end, and they were written down, and the message was given. It's not as easy as it happens these days. So, in those days, the available medium was transmitting the dots and did da 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 da, like that it is to be pronounced. And then one long word means a long sound means that particular word, and that word particular letter, and that letter used to be transmitted into words, and that is to be so. That did da 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 everything can be understood if only one understand the Morse code. The poet also says same thing. If one is able to understand the grief in that language, then only we can understand. Otherwise, it's something meaningless sound, meaningless for those who cannot understand meaning. So that's what it is said. So Hume's words is because here what the renowned ornithologist had described, beyond that this bird has acted upon. So what the poet says in this, the poem turns light on the contrast of the way we behave with the nature. We, in the sense, we humans behave with the nature. The nature has been so graceful and wonderful, but we have been very lusty and greedy, and have been very what we say, senseless to what our fellow beings are there. Birds and all other things who are also having their own share of rights over this earth and have been doing their duties, we have forgotten them. We just feel that we humans are supreme. It's not that. So I end this poem with a word that we should have a proper feeling for the nature, then only we can do something. Namaste.